It has finally happened. For the first time in the series, Sukuna is actually about to lose. He's in the final battle with a super powered up MC that basically no villain has ever conquered in shonen. However, I think whoever ends up defeating Sukuna is going to have to sacrifice themselves to take Sukuna out. And we actually know this is going to happen for sure. And in this video, I'm going to explain how, as well as the proof we have for this. This is without a doubt Sukuna's biggest test so far. We've seen Sukuna in desperate situations before, where he looked like he was literally one hit from certain death. And Sukuna will even tell you this himself. A few of those times he got super lucky, where he should have lost and died. For example, the first time he was fighting Yuji and Yuta inside of Megumi's domain. If only Megumin had decided to help them, Sukuna might have lost there and then. And Sukuna has become a bit of a meme for always finding a way to survive and basically being an unkillable zombie. And you know what? With the reverse curse technique people have in Jujutsu Kaisen, a zombie is really not a bad description of what some of these guys are. So my main point in this video, this is the one scenario where basically all villains are cooked in shonen. However, there's another scenario that could happen in Jujutsu Kaisen that does not involve Yuji that would also mean certain defeat for Sukuna. We'll talk more about that scenario as well as why I have a feeling that Sukuna still has something up his sleeves. And as unlikely as it might seem, Sukuna can somehow still shock everyone and actually beat Yuji. And so before we get into it, just to clarify, I'm not a Sukuna fan. This is just an analysis on what I believe is most likely going to happen next. As of now, Yuji has kind of guaranteed to Sukuna that he's going to kill him, which is ridiculous. No one has ever really looked down on Sukuna like this since maybe Gojo. The fact that Yuji looks down on Sukuna has unexpectedly, in Sukuna's words, filled him with a lot of joy and excitement. But if Yuji loses, this will be one of the craziest things we've ever seen in any series, to be honest. And if I was doing the series, I might actually do it just for the shock factor and maybe like introduce some kind of twist at the end. Obviously, I would never have Sukuna just beat everybody and end the human race basically, or go around the world just causing chaos. Nobody wants that. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we know that Sukuna has to lose. But nothing says that he has to lose in this exact same way we've seen in many series, where, you know, against the main character, the final fight of the series, basically the main villain almost never has a shot, especially in shonen manga. Like, Yuji is about to become the GOAT of his own series basically, if he does defeat Sukuna, unless Megumi helps him and Sukuna is unable to get back to full power. But based on what we saw at the end of the last chapter, I think Sukuna is just about to get back all of his powers and his domain. And this is also obviously another tangent, but this is also the reason why I think that Yuji needs to obtain a barrierless domain. Because if Sukuna is about to use his own domain, basically the only thing that could match an open domain is another open domain. No matter how good your sure hit is, the shell is just gonna get destroyed in theory. I've made a video about this, but the reason why Yuji is literally the best candidate from the modern era to get a barrierless domain, other than maybe Megumi, is because he has experienced it when he was inside of Sukuna. Not to mention that Yuji is somehow supposed to be related to Sukuna. But one thing that is still really confusing and unclear is Yuji's domain. It seems like it's some kind of information domain, but obviously we're still not sure. I don't know if like there's been some clarification of what Yuji's domain is. However, if it is some information domain where you just see a bunch of random images, I don't know how on earth is Yuji gonna make an open domain out of that. Basically, another thing I've been saying for the longest time is Sukuna has to get back to full power, or whoever defeats him will not get any credit basically, and Sukuna is still gonna go down as the GOAT. I might not mind Sukuna going down as the GOAT, but Sukuna is such a despicable person, and he has this like very unique philosophy, and he says that without this philosophy you cannot be the strongest. So that would kind of be admitting that Sukuna's philosophy is the best and the greatest. And you could take that one of two ways. Either it could be what Gege thinks, and I wouldn't be surprised to be honest. It could also just be Gege looking throughout history and saying that, oh, even throughout history there have been some really, really bad people who are like very, very great, and they did a bunch of great things, I suppose. Like, you know, I mean, maybe I don't want to say them by name because I don't want the video to get flagged, but I think everybody kind of knows who I mean. But even throughout history, a lot of the baddest and worst people kind of ended up losing. Not that just good wins, but like the spirit of fairness seems like it ends up winning in the end. But like seeing like a Thanos win, someone who thinks they're actually doing a good thing, and someone who isn't really a bad person, but they just think they need to do this necessary thing in order to save the world. At least that was his logic. Thanos was kind of a cool villain, you know, for those of you who did see the Avengers. So I thought that it was definitely really, really cool that he did win, at least at that one time. Whereas for Sukuna, nobody really wants to see it happen. And so you would think that if Yuji loses, then that's the end for everyone. Obviously, my favorite would always be Gojo, and I think that's the only other situation where I would feel like Sukuna is for sure going to lose. If Gojo would come back as himself, it would almost be way too crazy to bring Gojo back and have him lose again. That would almost be just so mind-blowingly weird. Like, make Yuji lose, bring Gojo back and make him lose too. Like, oh my god, Gege, what would you be doing at that point? So if Yuji does lose, I think Gojo does come back. Or someone else. It could also be Yuta, who finally reclaims his main character status. I love Yuta. I probably wouldn't like him as much if he was the main character, because he would just be one of those really, really broken main characters who it would be so easy to write Yuta just getting BS power-ups all the time for no reason. So the fact that he does still get all these BS power-ups and he's not the main character, I think is really, really unique and cool. But usually we know that the main character always has to land the final blow. Personally, for me, it doesn't have to be like that. I do love Yuji. However, like, I would definitely like to see a bit of a twist. But even if we just get a cool fight between Yuji and Sukuna, I guess I'll be kind of satisfied with that. And as for Gojo, we saw at the end of this chapter there was a bit of confusion as to what is going on, basically. I think Yuji said something about Gojo, and I think maybe Yuji was like noticing that Sukuna is using Gojo's technique, or the technique Gojo used against Sukuna. And Sukuna mentioned that he wanted to try it. The thing that Gojo did in order to like basically like overclock his brain and force his curse technique to come back, giving himself brain damage essentially, in order to just keep using his domain and all that stuff. And the reason why Sukuna was very hesitant to do this is because he still has the damage from Unlimited Void, which is pretty insane. It's pretty insane that the Unlimited Void is still affecting Sukuna and damaging him. I have to talk about the Megumi situation a little bit. Megumi was arguably my favorite character in the series, at least top 3, had to be top 3. It's sad to see that this is the way it went for Megumi, but I literally understand. I thought Yuji is going to be like Naruto. And, you know, no offense to Naruto, he's literally one of my favorite main characters of all time. But, you know, Naruto was to Sasuke like, no, I will not allow this, you know. No matter what Sasuke does, basically Naruto is like, no, you're coming home with me. It's like he was treating Sasuke like Sasuke was his child, you know, something like that. But here, it's very understandable. Megumi is just done. Like, and I get it. If you have someone you love that much that you're willing to just live for them, and your whole existence is for them, and you know, good people like them. I guess this is the kind of the thing that Megumi forgot. Megumi wanted to protect and help other good people, not just his sister. But to see his sister go through that and the stuff they did to him, to her, and have basically his sister die by his own hands, the will to live is just gone. He's just given up. And I am really glad and happy that Yuji understands this. I really thought Yuji was gonna be like, no, I just can't give up on you, I can't. But you know, he said like, I cannot force you to leave, and he gets it. I really love that he understands that. I hate that Megumi probably is in danger of dying right now, and even if he doesn't die, he's just gonna be so depressed. Like when you have someone like that close to you pass away, like that kind of thing, only time can heal that. Megumi would need years to like just move on and lay them to rest. But it was cruel to take away the one thing that Megumi cared about. And oddly enough, this also means that we will not get to see the full potential of Megumi Fushiguro. And I also kind of feel like there's one more shadow of the 10 shadows that we never got to see. Is it just me? But I just feel like there's just one more that we never saw. Why do I think that whoever beats Sukuna will have to sacrifice themselves? Well, first of all, Gege at a certain point said that either every character will die and Yuji will be the only one left. So I guess this would probably mean that Sukuna destroys everybody and Yuji is the only one left, and he somehow finds a way to defeat Sukuna, but everyone else dies. This is what Gege said in some interview a few years ago when asked how Jujutsu Kaisen was going to end. He said it was going to go one of two ways. Either Yuji is going to be the only one who survives, or Yuji is going to die and everyone else is going to survive. So if you just ask yourself, which of these two is more likely? It's 100% that Yuji is the one who dies and he takes Sukuna out with him. However, I think even if Gojo is the one to come back and do it, or whoever else, they're definitely going to have to make a major sacrifice, especially if they're gonna be able to defeat Sukuna at his strongest. If Sukuna is somehow able to defeat Yuji, and Yuji is definitely like one of my favorite characters as well, top 3, top 4, I feel like a way I could see Sukuna getting back to full power is somehow if he just eats a part of Yuji, and whatever that twin of Sukuna that was basically Yuji's dad or whatever, he's able to reconnect that. And everybody knows in the series, when twins are able to rejoin, they become like 5 times more powerful than they were separately. And obviously we know that Sukuna already consumed his twin, and that's probably maybe why he's so busted. However, if I remember correctly, he also separated with his twin at some point. So in the worst case scenario, if he's able to reconnect with Yuji, and Sukuna just becomes this unstoppable calamity, basically like 4 or 5 times stronger than what he is at his best, and then at that point, Enlightened Gojo enters the chat and kicks Yuta out. And boom, final 3 chapters of the manga. Awakened Gojo against merged Sukuna. But nah, this is just extremely hard cope. There's only 5 chapters of the series remaining. Yuji is probably going to be the one cooking Sukuna in these last few chapters. And then the last 2 chapters might just be some dialogue chapters where we get to see who survived and what they're doing, and mourning all the dead. It's actually crazy how many guys are going to be gone after this fight is over. You have Megumi, most likely, like 90%. You also have Yuta, who is also like 90% dead. Gojo, like literally all my favorite characters. Those are like my 3 favorite characters. I mean, you throw Yuji in there as well. I love Maki too, to be fair. Great personality. Super great personality. But I don't want to look like I'm simping for Maki, so I'm not going to put her number 1. But she's in there for sure. Even Nobara is a great character. Nanami is awesome. This series just has so many great characters. That's the one thing we have to give to Gege, to be fair. Thanks for watching, and please drop a sub if you enjoyed the video. And also comment down below what are the series to watch after Jujutsu Kaisen ends. And see you in the next one.